Hello, I'm Fast Lawyer with Oculus Rift Reviews, now with Windows Mixed Reality as well. Today we're going to review Vertigo Remastered Vr, a game released on the Steam store July 21st, 2020 for all the major headsets. It normally retails for 25 bucks. It's currently on sale, 10% off. Now, I actually got a copy because I own the original Vertigo. So I know a lot of my friends already owned Vertigo when this game came out, so they owned the remaster because of that. So you might want to check your Steam library to make sure that you didn't already own Vertigo Remastered, and because you own the original game. Now you can still play the original, and it's in the beta branch of Vertigo Remastered if you want to do so. And as some of you who follow my reviews might know, I really liked the original Vertigo. I bought it back in 2017, and I was just amazed that basically a solo dev could make an experience that well. Although I found it just a bit buggy and just a little bit unpolished, but overall I thought it was really good, and I was just surprised that a solo dev could make a single player campaign that well in VR, where back then we just didn't really have that quality of game in VR, and it was so surprising to have such a young person be able to accomplish that. So now we have Vertigo Remastered, and again it's by the same dev, and he's done a masterful job. He's basically fixed all the issues with the original Vertigo, and it's really a remake. So he calls it remastered, but I would call it a remake because it felt very different playing this game. Obviously, you run into stuff that's familiar if you played the original, but it's just so different. There's so many changes. It's like playing an entirely new game, and it's all been changed for the better. Vertigo Remastered is one of the best VR games out there, and that's a surprising thing to say when there's so many VR games out there, some by some big AAA development teams, and this game by this young developer just knocks a lot of them out of the way. And I wouldn't compare it with Half-Life Alyx or Boneworks. I've seen a lot of comparison to those games in some of the Steam reviews for Vertigo Remastered. I wouldn't go that far, okay? This is a good game, but it's not exactly on the Half-Life Alyx level or the Boneworks level. However, I would say it's just a notch below those games, and it's really good, and it's definitely better than most VR games out there. And I wouldn't be surprised if it would make a couple of top 10 lists of top VR games. I think it would make my top 25 list for sure. I'm not sure it would make my top 10 list. It's still really good, and I enjoyed it a lot, and I highly recommend it. If you have a VR headset, this is a must buy. This is a great experience. This game is running on the Unity engine. It took me about 5 hours to complete the game. Keep in mind, I was going at a steady pace. I wasn't trying to rush through the game. I've seen some people finish the game in 3 hours. I don't know how they did that, unless they were just trying to speed run the game from the very start, which I don't know why you would do that on your original playthrough. But it took me 5 hours, and I think for most people that's how long it would take. And I enjoyed all my time in this game. It was a pleasure playing through it. This game is a mixture of combat, of story, of puzzles, and it just feels like an adventure that you're on. Now keep in mind, the story isn't the strongest here, but that's okay. A lot of the story is told through environmental storytelling and through the actions that happen in the game. There are some cinematic scenes, but you know, they're not the strong point of the game, and they're very few and far between. And there are some text also that you'll find in the world that gives you some context of what's going on in this world and why you're here and what kind of world this is that you're trapped in. Overall though, I still think it's a great narrative experience even without a strong narrative story, but instead just a story told through environmental storytelling, through action, through just the look and feel of the game. And even without a strong text-driven story or voiceovers, I think a story is still strongly told through the environment, through the actions in this game. So I don't want to knock off the story too much, because you know what? It still feels like you're on this amazing adventure for your life, and it's okay that it didn't have the best cutscenes and stuff like that, and that it didn't have the most voiceovers or whatnot to help build the story even better. I still enjoyed it, and the gameplay is smooth and polished. Keep in mind, the combat here is not as strong as you might find in just a straight out VR shooter. So this is not a VR shooter. This is definitely a story driven game. It's not a shooter. There is some shooting available, and there's some melee available as well. But you know, if you compare it to something like Half-Life Alyx or Boneworks, I think this is where there is no comparison. The combat in those games is much better than here. However, the combat here is fine. You know, I don't have a problem with it because it's not really the focus of the game. There's some puzzle elements here, and I really like the puzzles in this game. I thought they were well thought out, and I think that's really the strong point of this game, that the puzzles just make sense. They're, you know, when you're seeing these puzzles, they're not like some abstract puzzle concept that's just thrown in there and doesn't make a lot of sense within the context of the game. The puzzles actually make sense, and they're fun to solve, and I think even a casual puzzle fan will like these puzzles. Now, if you're like a hardcore puzzle fan, you'll probably find these puzzles too easy, but I think most people will find enough challenge in these puzzles, and they're fun and they're well thought out. In fact, a lot of the combat is kind of like a puzzle element as well, especially when you're first starting out. Once you get some upgrades though, you will get more powerful, and you'll be able to take the enemies to task real easily. But definitely when you're starting out and you don't have many upgrades, you will have to be smart as far as how you approach combat and what's the best way to get out of a given situation. This game ran smoothly for me at a steady 90 frames per second on my 1060 GTX, and I want to say it was on high settings, so I had no issues at all with the game performance or running. I did experience a few bugs. I had to restart the game once to fix a bug where there was a loading problem when I fell into one of the worlds. And funny enough, this was a problem in the original game where there's like a subway, underground subway, and that was a part of the game that crashed a lot and loaded. And I thought it was hilarious that it crashed at that same level. But I didn't experience any other crashes or problems in this game. I think that was just a one-off. There were some issues. For example, your hands will turn very rubbery and they'll like expand. I'm not sure that's a feature. I'm pretty sure that's a bug. And definitely some issues with the height calibration. You can't set your height calibration within the menu, but even then I still had issues even after I had calibrated my playstyle. Now there are several settings, including you can play seated or standing, different graphical settings as well. We got full locomotion, snap turning, smooth turning options, so all wonderful. Like I said, this is a good game, and it's really a steal at the $25 price, and a complete steal when those of us who just bought the original Vertigo get this game for free. Thank you to the dev for doing that. The dev definitely did not have to do that, because like I said, this is not like just a HD port of his old game. It's a total remaster. It feels like a different game, and he could have charged full price for this game, and I still would be highly recommending this game to everyone, because it's a solid, good game. And honestly, I feel like a thief getting this experience for free just because I bought the original game. But anyways, thank you, dev, and I do strongly recommend Vertigo Remastered. If I have to score the game, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. And those of you who follow me know I don't give high scores. I believe the average VR game should only get a 5. So an 8 is a very high score for me. I mean, I gave Half-Life Alyx an 8.5 just to give you some context. So Vertigo Remastered is very good. It's excellent. I highly recommend it. If you like my review, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.